What is up, Watch fam, and welcome to Rant&h. I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and today is a collection review. So before we get into it, quick wristwatch check. I am wearing a Juvenia, I think, chronograph. This is a really incredible watch. It's got a beautiful silver dial, 3 sub-registers, obviously steel on silver, so the entire watch has a really clean kind of, look, which I don't see so often. Really usually have contrast, which is also very nice and very sporty. But in a watch like this, I feel like the chronograph function is in a very refined way. You know what I mean? So this watch definitely appeals to me very, very much. This one will be for sale in the watch shop at theoandharris.com tomorrow, bright and early. Please be sure to check out the shop and in the metal tomorrow. Now let's get into today's episode. Okay, so today I'll be reviewing a collection from AJ, a T&H fanatic, who recently sent me his collection to review. He sent it to info@theoandharris.com. So if you'd like me to review your collection, do as AJ did and send your collection with photos and descriptions and a little bit of information to that email. So back into AJ's collection, what he has, what I think that he should do and sell and maybe buy and stuff like that. So first watch I want to go into is an IWC 44mm perpetual calendar in rose gold. I'm not a huge IWC fan. I've made this kind of clear in the past, but I feel like with their Portugueser and some of their Pilots models, they've become, I don't know, overpriced, and they've become a very odd brand to me. But this is actually one of my favorite IWCs. 44mm is big. There is no doubt. It is definitely too big for me. But I have seen this watch on someone's wrist, someone with a large wrist, and it was absolutely beautiful. I think that the proportions are gorgeous. The top half of the dial maybe looks better than the bottom half. I don't love the bottom sub-dial, but that's very nitpicky. I really do think that the watch overall, although maybe top-heavy, is absolutely stunning. The example that I saw was, I believe, in white gold, or was it in platinum, with kind of like a galvanite dial. This has the rose case with a black dial, I believe. So although maybe not exactly what I would have chosen in color, still undeniably not only a beautiful watch, but a watch that I respect. And although I don't know this, AJ didn't say this, I do assume that he got a good price. What is a good price on a gold perpetual calendar? But a good price for these watches, because they do come down quite a bit. I mean, I see these watches trade not every time, but quite often in the high 20s and the 30s, $1,000. And frankly, that's kind of the same price as a 5711 Nautilus. And this is a lot more watch, both in size and in function. So I definitely think that you did a good job. You mentioned this was a grail piece, so I have to say congratulations on achieving your grail piece. Okay, next is a Patek Philippe Nautilus, 37mm. It's a reference 3800 in two-tone. I know that this is not one of people's favorite Nautiluses. It's not my favorite Nautilus by any means. Well, it's got a couple things going for it. Three things. It's a Nautilus, one of the most iconic watches of all time. It's got actually a Nautilus in great condition. That's one I didn't think of before. So it's a Nautilus in great condition and a configuration that, although totally unrelated to the original intention of the Nautilus being a steel luxury watch, it's in two-tone, but to me that's just so honest to the period in which it was produced. It gets kind of, diluted, the whole idea of steel sports watch luxury. Then they proved it, it became a success, and then they made it in gold because, rich people still wanted, a gold watch. So I think that it is comical in a lot of ways. I would definitely wear it. But finally, to me, the biggest, variable here, it was his father's watch. So AJ is lucky enough to own his father's watch. It wasn't lost. He had a watch, as well. Many dads don't. And he was lucky enough to inherit something, not only something, but something very, very cool, interesting, and by Patek Philippe. So I think that you could have done a lot worse, AJ. Okay, moving on. Cartier Pasha. 42mm. I don't love this watch. I think that it deviates way too far from what Cartier is. So to me, it doesn't fly. To me, anything that deviates from the original, kind of Cartier intention is kind of odd. It seems like it was a mass market play, not true to their brand. I think that Cartier is best with their tanks, with not just the Tank Louis, but the Normal and the Chinois and the Bangalore and all these kinds of things. That to me is true to the Cartier message, and this one isn't. So I have a little bit of a gripe with this one. I do recommend that you liquidate that watch, not only because of my opinion, but because you've kind of said the same thing. You said you'd be willing to let go of this watch. And I think that if you are willing to, then you should just, bite the bullet and just do it. You can, it's not worth nothing. You can help fund something, and something with much better value. Something that represents much more value and something with much better residual value. Two very, very important things. Next, IWC 36mm Pilot's watch, Mark 12 in 18 karat yellow gold. This is a badass watch, and I think that it achieves exactly what you wanted it to achieve. It's an all gold watch with great size. I think that 36mm is a wonderful size for most people on their wrists, certainly mine. And I think that it achieves all of the bling and fun of like a badass, like I'm a stockbroker, Wolf of Wall Street 80s watch, without being a Rolex. And there's nothing wrong with being a Rolex. My Grail watch is a Rolex Date 8 in yellow gold. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that opting out of Rolex and going for more of an obscure kind of maker, especially one that's not known for making watches in yellow gold, especially with bracelet, is super interesting. That watch to me would say two things. If I saw it, I would see it and think that you either have no idea what you're doing and couldn't care less about watches, or I would think that you very much so care about watches, you know what you're doing, and this is a very cool play that you made, and we could talk about it and have a laugh and about how cool and interesting it is. My one gripe with this one, I wish the end links were straight as opposed to kind of that convex. I think that would be so much more beautiful, but still the watch is beautiful. And if you wanted to, I think you can even custom make straight end links. So consider that. I think that you would really like it. Next, Breitling Chronomat 33 in two-tone with a diamond bezel, Vegas watch. Sell that. If you don't want that, then sell it. I personally hate it. That's a watch that, like I said before with the IWC, that I would look at you and think, okay, you either have no idea what you're doing, or you really do. The latter wouldn't even come through my mind. I would just assume that you had no idea anything about watches and you just had bad taste. I don't mean to, be aggressive. I think that obviously through looking at your collection, by assuming that without knowing you, by your Breitling, that I would be wrong, because you have great taste. I think that we have very similar kind of values and taste. But this watch to me, it's rough. I think it's a little bit rough. It has nothing to do with Breitling. It has no correlation between what Breitling's core message is and what this watch represents. And at the end of the day, it holds up too much money. This isn't a $500 or $400 fun piece. It's a lot of money, in my opinion, to hold up in your collection. I think that maybe it would fare well on like Staten Island, just as well as Vegas, but I gotta say, I would sell it. Okay, and finally, your Maurice Lacroix skeleton watch. It's a 42mm. You bought it for your wedding day, so this is a very sentimental piece. Do I think that there are better skeleton watches out there? I can think of one. I think the Cartier Tank Louis skeleton is a gorgeous watch. But, to me, I'm not a big skeleton watch fan. That's the watch I always kind of think about when I think skeleton, and it's just so beautiful. But it's a cool watch, no doubt. 42mm is big. I would prefer it in 36. I think the skeleton would just come off a little bit more refined and pulled back. But ultimately, it is a cool watch. It is a well-built watch. They do build good watches. And at the end of the day, it's your wedding watch. So that's something that you should cherish for the rest of your life. So those are my thoughts on what you have now. So what would I do? Now, this is the real important and fun part. Well, who do I think you are, and what do I think that you're going to value? You definitely value bling. There's no doubt. You have a two-tone Nautilus. Even though it was an heirloom piece, you still have it and wear it, I believe. You have the Chronomat. Hate it or not, it exists and it's there. You have a solid gold IWC Pilot, and you have a rose gold IWC Perpetual. You've got expensive taste. There is no doubt. My big question is this Pasha. Although I first of all, I recommend that you liquidate both the Chronomat and the Pasha. But my question here is, the Pasha, it seems out of place because it's not as blingy. So would you be interested in something on the steel, kind of sporty, but not dive watch side? I know you said you didn't want a dive watch, but I do think that something maybe in a chronograph world, in the vintage 36 to 37 or 38mm chronograph with an interesting dial would really suit you well, because you have quite a bit of watch money about to be liquidated if you do sell these watches. you have a lot of capital to play with. I think actually too much capital. I think that you can sell your Breitling and your Cartier and maybe spend half of the money you get for those two watches on a chronograph. I'm thinking the $3,000 range. Could you guys do a more affordable vintage chronograph? 100%. I mean, like Theo Harris specializes in more affordable vintage chronographs. But that does not mean that there aren't other things out there. There is always a more expensive option. And given the amount of money that you are about to liquidate or about to see liquidated, I think that you have a little bit of room to play with something very, very fun. Whether that's a clamshell case chronograph from, I don't know which company, or maybe Gallet, I mean, Tissot, I mean, Omega, I mean, the 321 Seamasters. I mean, this watch is a stunner. Check this out tomorrow in the shop. But there is an amazing amount of vintage chronographs that are very valuable, that will hold their value, and I think you would enjoy it. And once again, that's assuming you don't want to just go for gold again, which I have no problem with, because there are great gold chronographs out there. From Universal Genève even, they produced a model in, I believe, the 80s or 90s that I think is beautiful. They came in solid gold. They came in steel, two-tone, and solid yellow. So there's the full kind of spectrum there. It's a bigger watch, 37 or 38 millimeters, I think. And their value is great. I think under the $5,000 kind of like mark there. So that's what I would recommend if you want to stay a little bit more on the modern side, but still within vintage. Something from Gallet or something from Juvenia, but definitely something in the extremely desirable vintage chronograph market. I don't mean go $30 and $40 and $50,000 with Rolex and Patek, even above, and Heuer, but there are plenty of watches to be had within that $3,000 to $5,000 range that I think will make you very, very happy. So that's it, AJ. Thank you so much for sending in your collection for me to review. Everyone out there, please send me your collections with some photos and some brief summaries, nothing too long, to info@theoandharris.com. It will be my pleasure to review your collection live on this show in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and do not forget to check out the watches in the watch shop at theoandharris.com tomorrow morning, bright and early.